Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on ILoveBlackPeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of I Love Black People. And thank you so much for joining us this wonderful journey. We definitely appreciate all your input, continued your support. We couldn't do it without you. And, we're definitely heading on a journey that really involves so much. And we definitely love the opportunity to share and kind of discuss some of the things that are going on in the I Love Black People world. And as you know, as a co-founder, I Love Black People, a tech startup. Literally, our mission is to protect our community from the harms and humiliations of racism and Afrophobia. And we classify or describe Afrophobia as the irrational fear or hatred of people perceived to be of African descent. And we think it's important that after literally centuries of issues like this, that we come up with a way that's scalable and that's useful for our communities to protect themselves. And so, in no way do we tell people to go out there and try to change the minds of so many people who may, in many ways, be set in their ways. And I think something someone taught me recently was there's a difference between ignorance and arrogance. Some people, just like many of us who went through school systems that taught white supremacist ideology as a part of the history books, science books, the math books, many of us, there's information we didn't know or we were mistaught. So it can lead to a level of ignorance that upon being properly enlightened, exposed, or provided said information, now a person can adjust the thought process. And now some of the irrational things they thought could actually be changed. I think that's a reasonable exercise for people who have the patience to deal with that level of educating or, undoctrinating type. But then there's also the arrogant people who literally don't want to hear it, and they're set in their ways. And now that they're bold about with their arrogant ways regarding these issues. And again, either one, I think there are definitely people who are better suited to pursue how do you address those. Our focus is literally the 1.5 billion people of African descent that throughout the world, including the continent, who are facing these issues right now as we speak and are looking for ways to be empowered. Because at the end of the day, this is a collective effort. We talk about the technology that we're using, the application you can download on uh, Apple App Store or on Google Play. I Love Black People Safe Places. You can download the app, and the big thing is crowdsource. And the crowdsource means that it takes each and every one of us. With your support, we can build something that's never been built, a global safety net to protect our communities from the harms and humiliations of this racism and this Afrophobia. With that being said, there's steps that we need and we're continuing to take to make sure that happens. And one of those steps is this summer, we're really embarking upon a serious DMV campaign. And for those who don't know what DMV, that stands for Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, where we're literally focusing on these areas to identify the Black friendly places throughout this region that in our 8 categories to make sure that when you're in this space and the people who live in this region, that you have access to the information that allows you to make these good decisions on how we need to go about moving in a fearless way where we don't have to be looking over our shoulder somebody's racially profiling or following us in the store or following us or not treating us the way we are. And let's be even candid, we have 8 categories. It's not just about following a store. One of our the original Green Book, which was done by Victor Green from the 1930s and 1960s, was focused on places to eat, places to sleep, and transportation, because he was really focusing on one vulnerability of travel throughout the Jim Crow, what we call American apartheid, the United States, which wasn't just in the South, it was throughout the entire country. And those three were key, especially when people were traveling in their personal vehicles, making sure they could stop to get fuel at the right place that wouldn't harm them, being able to stop in certain towns to rest or to sleep, where it wasn't a sundown town where they'd be humiliated, making sure they could go get something to eat without being humiliated and not being provided for, being hungry or what have you. But there's also issues like what we've known, like healthcare. In the old days, it was, the water fountains were labeled, but just think about racist doctors. The consequences of a doctor is probably more consequential than a transportation or an issue with a restaurant. And we know that someone like Serena Williams, who's definitely athletic, and so her physical, abilities are there. She was wealthy, so access to all the best of the best that you could say in services. Famous, and people know who she is, so they know that this is an important a patient. And then she's even married to a white man, meaning that she has a close proximity to perceived power of white supremacy or that ideology. So with all that, she still was almost killed by giving birth, something that women have been doing since the beginning, literally, of time. So we know that the eight categories are important because not only that, we got education slash childcare. You don't want someone harming your children through racism and Afrophobia. The psychological, emotional scars that will leave are oftentimes irreparable. You will be there forever. And also issues like legal, which again, you don't want to be in a situation where you're being represented by someone who, perceives you to be a threat or has a fear of you that's irrational or hatred of you that's irrational, because you could find yourself being incarcerated or even worse. And then, of course, we have the issue of finance, of course, related to funds, beauty, making sure that you're literally treated, your outwardly appearance is being treated and handled with the respect that you're due. And these are the areas that we see are being key in the area of the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, where we want to make sure that we create this global safety net. And we picked DC because the DMV because again it has such a high concentration of Black communities here. From all walks of life, and from all the stratas, class, education, and really all in one place, where if we really get our product market fit, and that's a word we do use in the start world, where product market fit is when you have an offering to people that they can't live without, and it actually goes viral. That's with your support, we're going to develop, and we are developing that type of solution to address this issue of racism and Afrophobia. This global safety net that's crowdsourced by you. So if anyone has information about what's Black friendly, would be in the DMV area. So we want to use this as a model, and we're going to be pursuing it throughout the summer as well as through the fall, and make sure that everything that we're providing, utilizing this app, meets the needs of the people who deserve it, and definitely will be empowered by it. So make sure you tell your friends and family, share the word on that. These are the things that we're going to be doing. We're literally looking at making sure we have a better engagement online. So you'll see more of us, again, taking the app and asking our users that are already have downloaded to participate in what we call our chat groups. We call them teams. So each of our eight categories, be it healthcare, we're asking for folks in the DMV to get in there and start talking about what the issues are that we can solve in the area of healthcare. And remember, when we're having these discussions in the chat group, I know so much of what we see out there in the mainstream so-called arena in social media, the algorithms that they leverage or use, be it with Meta, some of these other places, they really focus on division, antagonism, conflict. What we're building is something is a safe space where literally when you come, you're literally going to be supported for the Pan-African unity that's important. And that Pan-African unity, when I say it like that, no matter what part of the African diaspora, even if you know because I always have these conversations as it relates to race. And of course, we're all clear race is a fiction, it's not a science, but racism is real. And so, however you self identify, we want to make sure that you're not being victimized by racism or Afrophobia. And so that's the part that's clear. We've all had our journey and we all come from different backgrounds. And so when people start saying, well, how do you say black or African or all the different things that people say, whatever works for you is probably the best way you should self identify. And I think having those conversations, it also can become triggering because you never know what trauma people have gone through or going through. And having conversations about something as personal as their self identification, I think there's probably better ways to spend time in discussion. And I think sometimes these things can lead to distractions as it relates to not being able to leverage the time and energy we have on the things that we either agree on or are common issues that we're facing that we can work collectively on. So I think it's very important as we move forward and look at how best to leverage the work we're doing to build and crowdsource is that remember that these things may be different in your perspective. And what we're doing is just one way of many ways. In no way is the solution that we have the only solution to solve problems in our community. It's a solution. And we pray that we inspire you to support by literally downloading the app, become a member by recommending a Black friendly space. And these are the things that we're saying in a way that so many people are not necessarily the types that can go out there and protest. Or some people might be tired of marching but they still want to be able to do something to contribute to the overall quality of life of our communities. One of those things is sharing this information. And we talk about information as power. Good information is definitely really powerful, where we are talking about the things that are again accurate, relevant, and timely, so that we can make good decisions from that good information. And when you're in a crisis, like I said, travel is one. You don't know anybody because you're in a new environment that's traveling, but you could be sick like Serena and you're vulnerable and you need that's sick. Well, you could be in the hospital like Serena. She wasn't sick, she was giving birth. And then literally be in a situation where you need to have good information so that you can protect yourself. Same thing, like I said, with legal. Like this is really about how we live our lives fearlessly, where we can move about and have self-sovereignty, where we literally have the ability to make decisions in ways that are empowering. And this is just a tool. Like we talk about technology. Many of you know I'm definitely involved in the Bitcoin space, been there since 2012. Shout out to Max Kaiser and so many other people who were very instrumental in me getting involved. Reggie Militant, HU, and all these things are great tools, but it's in our hands. Technology is only as good as we use it. Again, as when Bitcoin surges, people ask me more questions about it, and I tell them, it's just technology. Um, it's not some magical thing that's going to make all your economic problems go away or all your technical problems go away. Whoever has more money now, they'll just buy more Bitcoin. It's not going to change the wealth gap in that regard. I think there's so much being done. But brother Professor Jared Ball in Morgan State speaks about this at our Black Blockchain Summit. That's another. I need to go ahead and plug that. We're doing it again. We're doing it again. The eighth annual Black Blockchain Summit will be in Washington D.C. at the historic Howard University, September 26th to 27th. Make sure you get your tickets at blackblockchainsummit.com. We definitely got a new website that's up and going. We've also started a new nonprofit called the Black Blockchain Labs. Check that out. I think it's very important that again, if we're going to deal with technology, we have to be the makers. We have to be the ones who are setting really the standards by which people interact in these industries. And so the work we've been doing with that is super important. But back to the protecting ourselves, that's why the technology is important. We want to make sure that we master that. And then myself, our co-founder and leader, Mr. Christopher Mapendera, being both engineers, it's our way to give back. We didn't have background in business. Well, I did go to Howard MBA program, but I failed out. So true confessions. HU, still love it. Been good to me. Tuskegee, good to me. So we're literally about trying to make sure that no matter what, we use these technologies in a way that's actually beneficial and not mislead people about the potential or the actual benefits of these technology. But our ability to connect our communities throughout the diaspora, this is the powerful thing. Like literally, we've been separated by a host of reasons, but now we can literally come together through I Love Black People and communicate and actually do something collectively together to benefit. And I think that's something that's important when you look at the mainstream social media. A lot of that, again, those algorithms that are set up to have people have conflict, you can actually see a bunch of conversations that lead to nothing. And so what we're doing, we're very clear about taking action. Literally, the action that you can take that's compelling is literally recommending a Black friendly space to make sure that someone that you don't know is is safe. And that's we call that altruism, the unselfish concern for the welfare of others, which is key because so many of us have something to contribute and we just don't know how. And as I referenced, the folks that may be tired of marching or afraid to march or do whatnot, these are things that we can do. We recently we spoke out against the governor of Maryland vetoing the Maryland reparations bill, which was a study, and we participated in um, a press conference at the Capitol to saying, "Hey, this is unacceptable. We have so many members. I love Black people in Maryland, and they deserve to get their inheritance." And some people talked about it was might have been a issue of there's no need for studies. There's been enough studies. I don't think there's going to ever be enough done until we see reparations done. But that being said, I think Malik, who led the effort, another Howard alum, was talking about the fact that as an attorney Malik, uh, um, he literally made a point that when you're doing damages, this is important. So if somebody like Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz is actually talking about how, as a legal practitioner, you have damages and they have to be evaluated, then I don't think that's unreasonable to be done in regards to 2025 in Maryland. And I definitely don't think it's an either or. Action should be taken and should have been. It's not due. It's past due. That part. And then in addition to that, it's not just about rhetoric. It's about action. And again, if you don't know, I'm somebody who definitely is in favor of direct payments and lineage based reparations. But with that being said, that's my preference. But it is important that we hold all these people accountable who are talking about these issues, because again, there are elections do have consequences. I hear people say that, but every day has a consequence. Every day. There's a part of your life, it's a political part, an economic part, it's a social part. There's a host of aspects of your life, and you need to hold yourself first accountable to all these things every day, not just on so-called election day. Because best believe if you're not, there are people actively pursuing a political agenda that includes you with your involvement actively or inactively. So we must be active in every phase of our life in order to make sure we hold ourselves accountable and we hold all those around us. So if we have a governor that doesn't respect the wishes of the people, and in this case, it was like over 100 some legislators, and like less than 40 that was against it. So you're almost like that's the will of the people. Remember, when you hear about legislative bodies in the context of politics, these are representatives of groups of people. So again, 100 legislators actually could easily represent, again, hundreds of thousands of people. So we must be clear that being the accountability starts, but not everybody's going to go to the Capitol to protest. So for those people, they want to do something. I Love Black People gives you a way to do something positive and supportive. And remember, our focus is on Black friendly. Our focus is not on who's not friendly. Because once you get caught up in the saying who's not good, which is definitely a fair thing, it still doesn't answer the question, where do you go? And I think in many cases, we got to make sure that we're giving our people good information so they make good decisions. And they need to know where they can go to get support in these different areas. And then if you kind of sum it up, that over the summer we're going to be at different locations. You'll see us online, but you'll also see us at events. As a startup, we always are mindful of our budget. So, the cost of doing things in person can be quite expensive. So we're trying to maximize our availability, because we want that real people interaction. This summer is about making sure we get our what they call product market fit, as I referred to before, and that's important, that we get your feedback. Not about anything more than making sure that we're solving this issue in a way that makes it helpful to you. And your feedback, and that is constructive criticism is a part of that. We're taught, somebody corrects you, you should say thank you. There's nothing about the journey that we're on that we think is going to be perfect. What they say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of progress. So we know that the steps that we're taking to move this forward are important. That being said, we know that we can't do it without you. You are the reason why we do it, and you are the one who's helping us do it by crowdsourcing. So these are the key fundamentals that we take with us no matter where we go in the world. And these are some of the things that, even with our members, we have an office in Zimbabwe. And for those who, not aware, like even the president of South Africa had to deal with these issues from the US president, talking about how people are being treated. And we know in the United States that we've had enough of genocide and enough of enslavement, that's why reparations is a big issue. But the issue of being harmed and humiliated is something that we've been facing throughout the world. It's just not a one place in the world. South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, our people are being harmed and humiliated. UAE, the Middle East, all over the world. And we must do things proactively. If deliberate things are being done to harm us, we need to do deliberate things to protect ourselves. And those who are waiting for these leaders, be it in Europe or in Africa, we're the leaders we've been waiting for. And again, that doesn't say don't be engaged in electoral politics. I've already said that it's important that there's a political side of your life. Anytime you got two people in the room, there's politics. But what I am saying is we're not going to wait for elections, and we're not going to wait for someone to come save us. We're going to save ourselves, working collectively through Pan African unity. And again, when I talk about Pan Africanism, this is not some deep ideology that you have to go through 20 years of study. We're family. We come from a collective African family. And if you don't even know you're from Africa, it's fine. We can see it all over your face. No, it's one of those things that we take very seriously, in the sense that we know that this family doesn't necessarily always agree, that there's differences. You got family members that are really close to you, you got distant family members, but in the context of family, there should be a level of respect and regard we have for our humanity. And again, that doesn't end with Black people, but we're very clear that the attacks and things that are being done specifically through Afrophobia, specifically through the racism we know, we have to protect our communities from that. And we make no apologies, and we definitely double down, triple down on the importance of making sure that we do everything that we can to make sure we create a world that was better than the one we found, on the shoulders of some of the most amazing, resilient, powerful, courageous people on the planet. Because again, we all know that we've gone through so much, and now it's so much more that we still have to do. And if we can do that, leveraging technology, working collectively together, these are tools that we're creating that, again, can be used by our children to benefit them, as well as encourage them to come up with even better ideas than us. This is definitely not the ceiling. We tell people this is the floor, this is the entry point. What you do with these opportunities is in your hands. And we encourage everyone, to do more. And this is, as an engineer, there's things that we can do that really benefit our community. And it's not just about us coming in and being, again, people who work outside, in a protest mode, but people who are literally standing on principle. We know what right and wrong is, and if you can use your talent and your skills to do something right, and look, hey, and righteous, which is pretty cool, then that's something that we all should be, a part of and see as being important. And one of the things that I'm very clear on, even if we don't always agree on all the details, is that whatever your number one issue is, it might be my number three. It being my number three doesn't mean we're enemies or opposed to each other. That just means I'm probably doing my thing with your issue a third of a time as you are, which still could be quite a bit of time. So again, there's ways that we can figure out how to work together, be kind to each other, and have conversations like in our chat groups where we actually are talking in ways that are constructive and not just talking about who's got a big car, who's going on a big vacation, or who's got a big house. There's not big houses, vacations, and fancy cars are awesome. I am not against it. I definitely appreciate all those things, but it's really upon us to actually take advantage of the time that we have together to do things that are super special and wonderful. And I think one of the things that we haven't done enough of is do that, spend that time together being constructive. And those who went to HBCUs, we definitely have homecomings, but oftentimes most of the homecoming is spent on social because of the stress that we've had throughout the year. We got 2025 uh, at the in Vegas. So there's a lot of things we got going on. With your support, we're gonna make all these things happen because it's definitely important. I am because we are. Thank you.
Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on ILPBAPP.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.